Let's face it, Hollywood has a bad habit of squeezing legendary period dramas into tiny 2-hour corsets, then tossing the leftovers into the editing room. Why settle for a single serving when you could feast for a whole season? Imagine your favorite costume films blown wide open. Every juicy subplot, every steamy secret, every character finally getting their moment in the candlelight. Which period drama would you binge if it got the epic TV treatment? Stick around. Some of these picks will surprise even the most hardcore fans. The Age of Innocence, 1993. Step into Gilded Age New York, where every whispered insult and forbidden glance carries more firepower than a pistol duel at dawn. Martin Scorsese's The Age of Innocence might look prim and proper, but underneath those mountains of lace and etiquette is a world built on gossip, ambition, and heartbreak. The movie gave us Daniel Day-Lewis brooding from behind his champagne glass, Michelle Pfeiffer as the ultimate outcast, and Winona Ryder as the woman who knows more than she ever lets on. It's a masterclass in quiet destruction, but if you blink, you miss half the war. Here's the thing. Edith Wharton's novel isn't just about two people yearning for each other from opposite sides of the ballroom. It's about a whole society teetering on the edge of change, where breaking a rule doesn't just risk your reputation, it shatters families and ruins futures. The movie captures that tension, but only in flashes. What about the countless side plots? The meddling families? The endless push and pull of duty versus desire? That's the stuff that needs room to breathe. Picture this as a prestige TV series. Every episode is another party, another secret letter, another scheme. You'd get to see the full chessboard, not just the king and queen. The world would feel richer, darker, and way more dangerous. Imagine an entire season spent unraveling just one scandal, letting all those secondary characters finally steal the spotlight. Mrs. Manson Mingott, with her acid tongue, the Van der Luydens, moving the pieces from the shadows. Even minor players like the Wellens would get their due. It wouldn't just be about romance, it'd be about survival in a world that never forgets and never forgives. The show could luxuriate in the lavish balls, yes, but also the slow, psychological suffocation of living a life you never chose. If Downton Abbey can turn a country house into a battlefield, The Age of Innocence could transform New York's upper crust into a psychological thriller, one carefully worded invitation at a time. Atonement 2007. Ready to ruin a good cry? Atonement isn't just a period drama, it's a ticking time bomb that detonates in your heart, then keeps you picking up the pieces for years. Joe Wright's film is breathtaking, all emerald dresses and swooning music, but it barely scratches the surface of Ian McEwan's story. The real power of Atonement lies in everything the movie can't show you. The long, lonely years, the missed chances, and the ripple effects of one girl's catastrophic mistake. Here's the setup. In 1935, England, precocious Bryony Tallis sees something she doesn't understand and lets her imagination run wild. One accusation later, 2 lives are destroyed, and the world slides headfirst into war. Saoirse Ronan, Keira Knightley, and James McAvoy deliver performances that will break you in half. But let's be real, a TV series could dig even deeper, exposing every layer of guilt, longing, and lost innocence. Imagine a series that lets us live with these characters for years, not hours. We could see Bryony's guilt grow heavier with every passing episode, feel Cecilia's isolation during the Blitz, and witness Robbie's struggle to stay human in a world gone mad. The movie flits between timelines, but a show could really linger, dedicating whole episodes to life on the home front, to the chaos of Dunkirk, to the quiet agony of waiting for a letter that never arrives. The supporting cast would finally get their due. Lola, with her secrets and her silent rage. The Tallis parents, adrift in their own private catastrophes. The nurses, the soldiers, the everyday people whose lives are warped by one family's disaster. Each subplot could explode into its own mini-tragedy. And that twist ending? The show could tease it for seasons, stringing viewers along with glimpses and half-truths until the final gut-wrenching reveal. But here's the secret ingredient: atmosphere. The film gave us dreamlike English summers and shattering wartime horrors, but a series could make us feel every season change, every slow erosion of hope. By the time the credits roll, you'd be begging for redemption, knowing full well it's never coming. If you thought one typewriter could change a life, imagine what an entire series could do. Atonement isn't just a story about a lie. It's about how you live when the truth can't save you. That's something a film can hint at, but a TV series could make unforgettable. The Remains of the Day, 1993. Let's talk about repression, not the garden variety kind, but the grand, sweeping, utterly British sort that can ruin an entire life without ever raising its voice. The Remains of the Day takes emotional restraint and turns it into an Olympic sport. In James Ivory's film, Anthony Hopkins gives us Stevens, the butler who polishes silverware while his own hopes gather dust. Emma Thompson is the warm light trying to break through his fortress of manners. It's gorgeous, devastating, and so tightly wound you almost want to scream at the screen. Just say how you feel. But here's the problem. The film moves with such quiet intensity that if you look away for a second, you might miss the years slipping by. The novel is a slow river of longing, regret, and the aching realization that some choices are irreversible. A 2-hour film, even one this beautiful, can only sketch the outlines of Stephen's tragedy. What if we let the story unfold as a series, each episode peeling back another layer of loyalty, lost chances, and social change? Imagine a first season diving deep into Darlington Hall, the pecking order among servants, the petty rivalries, the rituals that run on as the world outside spins into chaos. We could see Stephen's backstory, how he learned to value duty above all else, and why it cost him every scrap of happiness. Miss Kenton, not just as a symbol of what might have been, but as a woman with her own heartbreaks, her own ambitions. A series could finally give the supporting cast room to breathe. Lord Darlington, so easily dismissed as a misguided aristocrat, could become a tragic figure in his own right, naive, compromised, and ultimately destroyed by the politics he thought he understood. The guests, the relatives, the parade of dignitaries, each could carry their own subplot, adding new shades of drama to every episode. By the time we reach the end, with Stevens alone on the pier, the weight of everything unsaid would be almost unbearable. But that's the magic. A TV adaptation could make the audience live with every regret, every missed opportunity, every fleeting moment when things might have been different. If you think heartbreak only comes in grand gestures, The Remains of the Day will prove you wrong, one buttoned-up confession at a time. Bright Star 2009. You want swoon-worthy romance? Forget the usual will they, won't they games. Bright Star delivers the kind of longing that could set fire to a rainstorm. Jane Campion's film captures the feverish love between poet John Keats and Fanny Braun, a love doomed by poverty, illness, and society's sharp elbows. It's a visual poem, sun-drenched fields, handwritten letters, and whispered words that could break your heart. But here's the rub. Keats and Fanny burned for each other over 3 years. The movie gives us the sparks, but not the slow, smoldering fire. This story begs for a TV series, one that can give every stanza, every sigh, its full measure. Picture a first season where we meet Fanny, headstrong, creative, dismissed by half the neighborhood as a fashion plate. She's more than just the poet's muse. She's an artist in her own right, with wit sharp enough to cut through Victorian snobbery. Keats, meanwhile, is more than a tragic figure. He's awkward, ambitious, and absolutely convinced he'll die before he makes his mark. The series could chart their entire courtship, the tiny rebellions, the coded glances across crowded parlors, the agony of waiting for news from Rome. But it's not just about love. It's about friendship, family, and the price of genius. Fanny's mother is a force of nature, fighting to keep her daughter safe in a world stacked against women with opinions. Keats's friends, loyal, quarrelsome, often penniless, would finally get their own moments in the sun. Here's where a TV series could really shine. Victorian London is not all romance and roses. It's also poverty, disease, and the constant risk of ruin. The world outside Fanny's window is every bit as wild and unpredictable as the poetry inside her letters. Every episode could balance light and shadow, beauty and heartbreak, until the line between the two blurs completely. And when the end comes, and it will, you'll feel every heartbeat, every lost day, every promise that time refused to keep. Bright Star deserves a TV adaptation not just because it's beautiful, but because it's true. Some stories can't be told in a single sitting. They need to be lived, savored, and mourned, one episode at a time. The Duchess 2008. If you think royal drama starts and ends with the current British tabloid circus, buckle up. The Duchess takes us to the original hotbed of scandal, the Georgian aristocracy, where powdered wigs hide razor-sharp ambitions and heartbreak is practically a family heirloom. Keira Knightley plays Georgiana Cavendish, Duchess of Devonshire, a woman who could win elections, launch fashion crazes, and break hearts, all before breakfast. Yet the movie only scratches the surface of the real story, the one that history books tried to keep behind closed doors. Georgiana's life was pure melodrama, and one film can't possibly contain it all. She was the toast of London, adored by the public and hunted by political rivals. But behind closed doors, her marriage to the Duke was a chilly nightmare. He wanted heirs, not a partner, and he brought his mistress home like it was just another piece of furniture. Meanwhile, Georgiana fell hard for Charles Grey, a man destined for greatness, but forbidden by society's cruel arithmetic. A TV series could take its time, letting us watch Georgiana's rise and fall in real time. Imagine episodes devoted to her political campaigns, where she used her charm and wit to influence an election long before women were supposed to have a voice. See her at home, juggling impossible expectations, trying to mother her own children and her husband's love child in the same breath. Witness her friendship with Lady Bess Foster, a bond equal parts support and heartbreak, tangled up in betrayal and desperation. The show wouldn't just be a soap opera in satin. It would dig into the real stakes, how power is wielded, how reputations are made and destroyed, and what it costs to survive in a world that values appearance above all. Every side character, scheming politicians, jealous rivals, sympathetic servants, would get their own subplot. The politics, the passion, the pain, it's the kind of content that binge watchers dream of. By the finale, you'd be rooting for Georgiana not because she's perfect, but because she's real, flawed, brilliant, and endlessly resilient. The Duchess deserves the TV series treatment, not just for its gowns and grandeur, but because its heroine fought for a seat at the table long before anyone was willing to offer her one. Little Women 2019. You know the story: 4 sisters, 1 creaky house, and enough ambition to fill a dozen novels. Greta Gerwig's Little Women is a fresh, joyful take on Louisa May Alcott's classic, but if we're being honest, 2 hours just isn't enough. The March sisters need room to argue, to grow, to dream and fail and try again. This isn't just a coming-of-age story. It's a whole universe of hopes, heartbreak, and home-cooked chaos that deserves to be lived out on the small screen. Start with Jo, fiery, stubborn, convinced she's destined for greatness. A series could track her from homemade plays in the attic to the crowded streets of New York, where rejection and triumph dance hand in hand. There's Meg, wrestling with her dreams of luxury and her love for simple things, always torn between what's expected and what she wants. Amy, misunderstood genius, fighting for her place in a world that would rather ignore her talent. And Beth, gentle and steady, the quiet heart of the family. But Little Women is bigger than just the sisters. There's Marmee, the backbone who holds everything together with grit and grace. Laurie, the boy next door who's always almost part of the family, except when he isn't. Each supporting character, from irritable Aunt March to faithful Hannah, is a story waiting to happen. The show could linger on their holiday celebrations, their battles with poverty, and their small victories over society's rules. A TV series would let us dig deeper into the details. Amy's struggles in Paris, Jo's writer's block, Meg's marriage, Beth's quiet bravery. Every choice, every argument, every letter home would matter more. Instead of cramming years into a montage, each episode could savor the highs and lows, turning ordinary moments into the kind of memories that shape a lifetime. The real power of Little Women isn't in the plot, it's in the bonds, the heartbreaks, the tiny joys that make up a family. If you think you know the Marches, think again. A TV adaptation could make them more real, more complicated, and more unforgettable than ever before. Don't just visit their world, move in, and see what you've been missing. The Piano 1993. If you thought The Wilderness was just a backdrop for love stories, The Piano will set you straight. Jane Campion's Oscar-winning film throws us into the muddy, windswept wilds of colonial New Zealand, where Ada, mute but unbreakable, fights for her voice in a world determined to silence her. Holly Hunter's performance is electric, Anna Paquin is all wild energy, and Harvey Keitel adds danger to every shadow. But this isn't a film you watch, it's one you survive, and the story, frankly, deserves more room to breathe. Ada's world is one of impossible choices. Shipped across the world to marry a stranger, trapped by social rules as unyielding as the New Zealand forest. Her only solace is her piano, a lifeline to the world she lost. In the film, her passion is a thunderclap, but a TV series could let it build slowly, like a storm rolling in from the sea. We could witness Ada's struggle to protect her daughter, her secret negotiations with Baines, and the dangerous tension with her new husband, Alistair. But the real gold? The world outside Ada's cottage. A show could finally dig into the Maori community, the shifting alliances between settlers and the indigenous population, and the untamed landscape that shapes every choice. Each episode could focus on a different facet of colonial life: cultural clashes, survival, the creeping loneliness of exile. Even minor characters, neighbors, traders, children, would get their moments in the mud and rain. A TV series could explore the music at the heart of Ada's rebellion, letting every note echo through months of longing and hope. The relationship between Ada and Baines, all charged glances and stolen moments, would have time to smolder, to unravel, to bloom or break as the seasons change. And Ada's daughter Flora, so often overlooked, could become a second protagonist, her journey from childish defiance to hard-earned wisdom forming a spine for the entire series. By the final credits, you'd understand Ada's world as she does, not as a place to escape, but as a place to survive, and maybe, just maybe, to love. If you want a period drama that feels raw, wild, and real, The Piano deserves a whole season, not just a single unforgettable film. Far from the Madding Crowd 2015, some period dramas whisper their secrets. Far from the Madding Crowd stands on a windswept hill and shouts them into the storm. Thomas Hardy's tale of Bathsheba Everdeen and her three wildly different suitors is pure, unfiltered drama, passion, pride, and heartbreak swirling like dust across the Dorset countryside. The 2015 adaptation nails the visuals, all golden fields and foggy mornings. But let's be real, Bathsheba's saga is far too big for a single film. This story needs a TV series, and it needs one now. First up, let's give Bathsheba the space she deserves. She's not your average Victorian heroine. She's stubborn, fiercely independent, and sometimes her own worst enemy. A series could dig into every choice she makes, good and bad, and let us sit with the fallout. Her journey isn't just about romance. It's about survival, reputation, and carving out a place in a world built for men. That kind of complexity can't be captured in 2 hours. Then there are the suitors. Gabriel Oak, the steady shepherd with a heart bigger than the English countryside. Bold Sergeant Troy, all flash and charm, as dangerous as he is dashing. And William Boldwood, haunted by his own loneliness, driven to obsession by a single spark of hope. Each of these men could anchor their own season, with backstories, motives, and heartbreaks fully explored. A show could peel back every layer, showing how their lives and Bathsheba's are bound together by fate and folly. But Hardy's world is bigger than any love triangle. The supporting cast, loyal servants, suspicious villagers, and women trying to make their way in a judgmental world are all rich with potential. Imagine subplots about rural hardship, shifting class lines, and the slow march of progress disrupting everything people thought they knew. And let's not forget the land itself. The English countryside is more than a backdrop. It's a living, breathing character, shaping every decision and every disaster. A TV adaptation could make you feel the rain on your face, the mud on your boots, and the weight of another year's harvest hanging in the balance. By the time Bathsheba finds her truth, you'll be right there with her, cheering her victories, mourning her mistakes, and hoping that, this time, she finally chooses happiness. Give this story room to run wild, and it'll sweep you away. Belle 2013. Step aside, Jane Austen. Dido Elizabeth Belle is the period drama heroine you didn't know you needed. Ama Asante's Belle is based on the true story of a mixed-race woman raised in the lap of 18th century British luxury, yet always set apart. Gugu Mbatha-Raw shines as Dido, who navigates the glittering ballrooms of London and the shadowy corners of social exclusion with the kind of dignity that makes history books jealous. But as brilliant as the film is, it only hints at the rich, tangled web of politics, family, and identity beneath the surface. Imagine a TV series that could take Dido's journey and turn it into a sprawling epic. The first season could follow her childhood at Kenwood House, learning to balance privilege and prejudice, never fully belonging to either world. There's the complex relationship with her great-uncle, Lord Mansfield, whose legal decisions would shape the future of slavery in Britain. Dido isn't just a bystander in history. She's living at the flashpoint, her very existence challenging the status quo. A series could dig deep into the daily microaggressions and social slights Dido faces, as well as the small victories that come from simply refusing to disappear. Each episode could peel back another layer: her friendships, her rivalry with cousin Elizabeth, her growing awareness of the abolition movement swirling just beyond the garden walls. There's tension, heartbreak, and enough secret plotting to fill a dozen drawing rooms. The legal drama, too, would be riveting television. The Zong case, where a ship's crew drowned over 100 enslaved Africans to claim insurance money, is more than a historical footnote. It's the beating heart of Dido's story. A series could explore the public debates, the private struggles, and Dido's personal stake in a case that would shape the future of British law. Watching her use her influence, however limited, to bend the arc of history would be powerful, timely storytelling. And let's be honest, period dramas are at their best when they remind us that the past wasn't just ball gowns and manners. It was a battleground for justice, dignity, and change. Belle's world is bursting with drama, romance, and righteous fury. Give her the series she deserves, and she'll make sure no one ever forgets her name. The Portrait of a Lady, 1996. What's more dangerous than a villain with a plan? A heroine with too much freedom and not enough experience. Jane Campion's The Portrait of a Lady brings Henry James's tangled web of love, betrayal, and self-discovery to the screen. But let's be honest, a 2-hour film can't contain the full hurricane that is Isabelles Journey. Nicole Kidman gives a career-best performance, but the story is too big, too twisted, and too deliciously cruel to be contained by a single movie. Picture a TV series where each episode pulls Isabelle deeper into the labyrinth of European society. She's young, American, and determined to live life on her own terms, turning down suitors left and right until she meets the mysterious, devastatingly charming Gilbert Osmond. What follows is a masterclass in manipulation and heartbreak, as Isabelle's choices lead her into a marriage that's more gilded cage than fairy tale. But Isabelle's not the only player. A long-form series would give us front-row seats to the mind games of Madame Merrill, the poisonous charisma of Osmond, and the bittersweet loyalty of Ralph Touchett, Isabelle's cousin, quietly dying and quietly in love. Their stories, hinted at in the film, could blossom into entire plot lines, each with their own intrigue and heartbreak. Even minor characters, the bumbling suitors, the clever American heiresses, the jaded European aristocrats would have room to shine. The real genius of a TV adaptation? Watching Isabelle change. Each season could chart a new chapter. The bright optimism of her arrival, the thrill of independence, the slow, chilling realization of what she's sacrificed. The camera could linger on every letter, every suspicious glance, every moment when the mask slips and the truth cuts deep. Viewers could shout at the screen, beg her to make different choices, and still watch in horror as she walks straight into the trap. And through it all, Europe itself, Italy, England, France, would come alive as a character, with its ancient secrets and suffocating rules. By the end, you'll feel every ounce of Isabelle's triumphs and defeats, and you'll understand why the real danger isn't in the choices we make, but in the illusions we refuse to let go. This isn't just a story, it's a journey, and a series could make every step unforgettable. A Room with a View, 1985. Florence, sunlight, and scandal. What more could you want? A Room with a View is the period drama that launched 1,000 dreams of running away to Italy. James Ivory's film adaptation is a classic, but let's be honest, E.M. Forster's story is a garden bursting with possibilities, and 2 hours just doesn't let anything truly bloom. Lucy Honeychurch's journey from sheltered English girl to a woman who dares to choose her own happiness deserves the full TV treatment, lavish, sprawling, and unhurried. Imagine a series where each episode savors a different setting: the riotous beauty of Florence, the starched politeness of Surrey, the tension between desire and duty. Lucy, played to perfection by Helena Bonham Carter, starts off hemmed in by her family and society, her world as rigid as a Victorian dinner party. But Florence, blows the doors wide open, introducing her to wild landscapes, wild art, and the even wilder Emersons. A show could take its time with every eccentric character. George Emerson, moody and passionate, wrestling with existential questions and his own wounded heart. Mr. Emerson, philosophical and fiercely kind, pushing Lucy to live boldly. Charlotte Bartlett, the most meddling chaperone in literary history. And Cecil Vyse, the priggish fiancé whose every word drips with condescension. Each of these players could get their own arc, their own chance to shine or to scheme. But the real magic of a series would be in Lucy's transformation. We'd see every hesitation, every forbidden moment, every tiny rebellion against the rules that try to chain her down. The show could linger over the view from every window, the taste of every stolen kiss, the terror and thrill of breaking away from everything you've ever known. By the finale, when Lucy finally claims her happiness, on her own terms, it wouldn't just feel like the end of a love story. It would feel like a victory for every viewer who's ever longed to break free. A Room with a View is a love letter to courage and joy, and on TV, it could finally become the masterpiece it was always meant to be. So, which of these classics would you binge first if Hollywood finally gave them the series treatment? These films are packed with so much drama, heartbreak, and untapped brilliance. It's almost criminal to keep them locked up in a single movie. Drop your pick in the comments. Let's start the petition right here. And if you're hungry for more epic stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. The past has never looked so binge-worthy. Are you ready for a second helping?